Okay, so I decided I'm gonna do like a series on things that I wish foster homes or foster parents knew. Got my notes. So the first thing that I wish that foster parents knew when I was in foster care is the trauma. So over 90% of kids that are coming in to foster homes, group homes, whatever, have experienced trauma. So let's see what the definition of trauma is. So it's a deeply, deeply distressing or disturbing experience that overwhelms an individual's ability to cope, causing lasting effects on their physical, mental, social, and emotional well being. It's a subjective response to events like abuse, accidents, disasters that trigger intense fear, hopelessness, and shock. And in most cases, I can't remember the statistic, but it's like 3 out of 5 times. So out of every 3 kids, it is never reported. So they might get taken out of the home for something that a teacher sees or the doctor sees or something. But the actual abuse that the child themselves have experienced doesn't ever get reported. There are things that the kid just never talks about, doesn't want to disclose for, various reasons. So the numbers are actually much higher, but the 90% is fact. Like 90% of the kids coming into your home have experienced trauma. So what kind of things does that cause? Let's look. It says emotional, which is anger, anxiety, withdrawal, uh, difficult managing their feelings, unexplained outbursts, behavioral, acting out, aggression, regression. They can't sit still, they're very clingy. Cognitive, concentration problems, learning difficulties, self esteem issues. Physical, they get headaches, stomach aches, sleeplessness, unexplained body pains, muscle tensions. They have a very high flight or fight response. Physical, or I just did physical. So symptoms impacts the brain's development. They have severe attachment issues. They have horrible self-esteem. It can affect their long-term mental health with challenges like depression, PTSD, and even substance abuse. They have relationship issues. They're at an increased risk of engaging in risky behaviors. So, I can guarantee if you're a foster kid and you've experienced foster care, all of those trauma things you can relate to. And, even when it talks about, learning difficulties, you get to a point where you just, your brain can't because you've spent your whole entire life trying to survive. And then take you out of that place. They put you into a home that's supposed to be all this great things. And the people, obviously some of them have really great intentions when they open their home to foster kids, but they do not get training. So they don't know what to expect. And a lot of them, they think, well, I've opened my home to them. I've provided food, I've provided shelter, I've provided clothing, things that 90% of them probably never had. And in their heads, they're thinking that should be enough. But it's not enough when you are experiencing trauma as a kid and you're supposed to process it. And then you just get uprooted. And in my case, we moved around so much. We would get put in foster care. Bio parents would do what they needed to do. And then as soon as we would get put back, they would move. Either move to a different county or even state. And the system is so broken, they don't track state to state. They don't track county to county. And if you want to get records from another even county in the same state, it's like pulling teeth, which is crazy. There should be one database. President Trump, there should be one database that puts all of this information into a system when a kid is taken from the home. So this kind of stuff that I went through, and I'm sure other kids are still going through, doesn't happen. And this trauma that they're experiencing can actually be put to a stop. But then you get into a home where they're supposed to be, helping the child. That's like the whole point. Like, why take them away if you're not going to help them? So they're supposed to be helping them, but when the kids start showing these emotional behavior, cognitive, physical, and even the symptoms, it's left unaddressed. And I don't understand that. For the majority of the kids, it's left unaddressed. And then it kind of seems like they go after the kid, which they don't understand how to process these. Even adults don't even know how to express these emotions, and let alone a child. Like, the first time that I remember being taken out of the home, I was 4. So how is a 4-year-old that's supposed to be learning how to potty train and read and talk, how are you supposed to work through these traumas and act like a normal kid? You can't. But instead of helping the child, I feel like most of the time the foster parents just, this is way too much, I can't handle it. So the kid gets removed and they get put into another foster home. And sometimes the foster homes that they're getting put into is not any safer or a better environment than what they came out of. So then you get kids where they're like, okay, you're saying, whatever, I love you, blah, blah, blah. Okay, my bio parents tell me they love me all the time, but then they turn around and they beat the crap out of me. To them, in their head, they're like, this is no different. So why should I believe anything that anybody tells me? And then you get into the behavioral issues where they're acting out. They're showing really bad aggression. They're showing regression. Or they get really clingy because then they have that fear response where, okay, I don't want to go back home. Or I really like this foster home that I am, but my parents are doing what they're supposed to do. So then, you're taken out of a home that you really love and want to stay at, and then you're put back into that really abusive relationship, which, again, going back, 90% of kids don't, they've experienced it, but 3 out of 5 don't ever talk about it. So the parents might have got the kids taken away for whatever, like a dirty house. Who knows? But then they're put back into the home and they've experienced severe trauma. And can't talk about it on here because we're not allowed to say certain things. But just, I don't know, imagine. Look at the Epstein files. There you go. And then what I would recommend is, if you're going to be a foster parent, get better training. Look into things. Because some people, they've never experienced severe trauma. They've never experienced abuse. So they don't even know. They can't even comprehend it. But get training. Do your own research before you decide to be a foster parent. So things to watch for, just real quick. Increased crying, screaming that's unexplained. Unexplained tantrums. Separation anxiety, severe separation anxiety. If they have trouble sleeping, nightmares, they have an intense fear, anxiety, aggression, difficulty in concentrating. So you might get that from teachers and stuff. They might, follow up with the teachers, ask how your foster kid is doing. You want to look for regressions, things like bedwetting, thumb sucking, but also severe PTSD. Look into mental health disorders and stuff, because some of these kids are undiagnosed, but they have these disorders like PTSD, which I did. I had severe PTSD, and nobody helped me with that. I went to therapy. They put me on antidepressants, but the actual cause nobody ever addressed or helped with. So if you're a foster home or thinking about it, please do your own research. Really look into things before you just jump into it, because it is going to be difficult, but you can make a difference in a child's life. So just please help. Please help. Spread the word.